And welcome into another episode of the Outsider Sports Hockey Podcast. I'm Ben Mandel, joined by Tom Leone, Mike Dikunzak, and for the first time, Parker Dorsey. Parker, welcome onto the show, bud.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, we're ready to get in and jump in and talk some hockey here. Frozen Frenzy was just last night, 2 nights ago for when this episode does release. 16 games, all 32 teams in action. Mike, our Devils, we got to see Tyler Toffoli come through with the hat trick, 4 more points for Jack Hughes. Tom, you got to see an exciting game a little bit later on, although it was Calgary that struck first. The Rangers were able to pull that out. They lead the Metropolitan Division. Now, Parker, you're a Tampa fan. The Lightning, it's been a little up and down, but got a nice goaltending performance last night. They were able to pitch the shutout. Tampa Bay looking like they might be able to survive this period without Vasilevsky. But let's jump right into the show here. And first, we're going to talk about the Hart Trophy because really, this has been Connor McDavid's award, it feels like. I know it's not something he's won every year, but it just feels like he's so much better than everyone else. He has to win it. Well, he's hurt. He's out for a little while now. So let's kind of go over a few other names that can win this award. I know Mike and I are going to go in an obvious direction here. So, Parker and Tom, I kind of want to start with you guys. Who do you see as probables to win the Hart Trophy, the most valuable player this year, if Connor McDavid misses an extended period of time and doesn't win this award?
So I think I know you're probably for the sake of the pod, I should probably go in a different direction. It's just hard for me to think of anybody else right now than Jack.
Well, no, if you want to rock with Jack Hughes,
I'm rocking with Jack. I'm rocking with Jack Hughes. Unlike most Devil fans love throwing that video around of the Garden, cheering for Kako. I was not one of those idiotic Ranger fans. I knew what Jack Hughes was. It's the amazing. I just texted Mike this. The amazing luck of a ping pong ball, right? It can absolutely change the direction of a franchise. Could you imagine if Jack Hughes was wearing a blue shirt and Capo Caco was a Devil? Like the both teams probably aren't even in the same stratosphere right now. He is just taking this game to the next level and just the ultimate playmaker. I don't think he's as good as a scorer yet as Connor McDavid, but he's getting there. He's for sure getting there. I think he likes to facilitate more and really drive the offense. It's just impressive. And if McDavid's out for a long period of time and guys like Pastrnak don't turn it up or players around that realm, he's going to win the Hart for sure.
Yeah, I have a couple names that have been bouncing around in my head, but I think I'm going to go with Leon Draisaitl. I mean, he's always been sort of like the McKinnon, the Crosby over in Edmonton, and he's still in the top five of points in the league right now. And I think it would be pretty ironic, but also kind of interesting to see if he's able to maintain the points pace that he's at right now without McDavid, because he is still a very good player in his own right. Usually when you look at like CZN point totals in the league, it's usually McDavid number one, the number two is Draisaitl.
Yeah, I'll just jump in there, Ben, and obviously you know who I'm rocking with, but I'm a betting man, right, Ben? And Tom knows this as well. Patrick, you'll find out sooner or later I'm a betting man, but I'm just already.
You did not just say Patrick. Parker, you're gonna have to excuse Mike. He gets
You're
NHL players.
You are dead to me.
Excuse me,
I'm getting war flashbacks to the Starbucks on campus, Ben.
Sorry, Parker. My apologies, man. I am probably the slowest of the group, but nonetheless, I was already looking at the gambling odds for the Hart Trophy, and somehow McDavid is obviously going to be the favorite, right? Just shows that it is his award that you said, right, Ben? And I really like your pick, Parker. I like your pick with Draisaitl as well, because this is obviously another guy that I consider as well, because if McDavid's not there to show up, he's definitely the second guy that will be there, and it would be funny if he won it. But obviously I'm going to roll with Jack, but not just the bias aspect of things, but as Ben and I were talking about before we hopped on here, like he's got 14 points, and all his points that are not goals are literally primary assists. So that just means that he is making an impact left and right on the ice for the Devils. And another thing too, we also talked about the Devils just have a horrible time starting off games. So they have to come back for every win that they've had so far. So that just proves that Jack Hughes that really has to step up in order for this team to win games, at least right now. So I think that's what makes him the most valuable so far.
Yeah, look, Jack Hughes has been phenomenal. And like you said, Mike, 9 primary assists or 10 primary assists and 4 goals. He's been unbelievable, and he's directly involved in the offense. The other name I want to put out there, he hasn't necessarily had the production just yet, and it's tough because you don't usually see his position win the award. Cale Makar, he has been driving this Colorado team, and a lot of people are going to look at this team and say, oh, Ronsonen or McKinnon. Well, I don't know. Cale Makar is unbelievable. I think that he is the best player on this Colorado team. I wouldn't be surprised if Makar ends up winning this award. Now, I do think if McDavid is not playing, it is going to be Jack Hughes who does win this, especially the start he's had to this season. It's been phenomenal, and I'm really just excited to see him continue and carry on. Now, let's move on, though, into the show, because there are some unbeaten teams left, just 3. One of them we did just talk about, the Colorado Avalanche. You also have the Vegas Golden Knights and the Boston Bruins. Let's start by talking about Colorado, just because I feel like we are already on them. But guys, what are your thoughts on Colorado? I know, for some of us, this isn't necessarily a team that we expected to be back at this level, especially with their goaltending situation.
I guess I'll jump in here, though, Ben. I mean, obviously, this is a team that obviously in the future segment that I'll be talking about as well. But, it hasn't been rainbows and sunshine, right, for Colorado, but they're just finding a way to win games, right? And that's what makes them a scary contender over the last few years. And again, this year, I know on our preview pod, a few weeks back, we talked about Colorado, and I said I didn't, obviously I think they're going to be a playoff team, but I think there's other teams that are better than them, especially division and the conference. But man, they're proving it wrong. You say with Cale Makar and what he's doing to drive this team so far, it's really impressive to see that they're pulling out wins the way that they are. So they're definitely going to be a huge threat as the year goes on.
Yeah, I've been surprised with Colorado. I think what surprised me the most, Ben, you made the point earlier, is their goaltending just been solid. I mean, they won a game 7-4 on Tuesday night against the Islanders. It was kind of back and forth, but they've proven early in this year they can play that tight defensive game and control it, still in control of the pace of play, but also they've always scored with the best of them. So I think that's what has impressed me the most is, and when you get off to a hot start like this in the NHL, it protects you from that little lull you might hit where you lose 3 or 4 in a row, because you just start so hot. You get so many points early on, kind of separate yourself from the pack. And then if you just stay consistent, teams like this, they're going to have other streaks where they win 5, 6, 7 in a row or get points in 8 or 9 straight. And a start like this just propels teams like that, especially a team with that much talent like Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not particularly surprised with Colorado's hot start. I mean, they've been pretty consistently one of the top teams in the league the past couple of years. And I mean, this offseason, they brought in guys like, Thomas Tatar or Ryan Johansson and Druin. I remember him back in the Tampa days. But, they have pretty strong scoring depth, and they have Mikko Rantanen off to an extremely hot start. And, of course, obviously, they have McKinnon and Cale Makar as some of the best top talent in the league. So I'm not particularly surprised with their hot start right now. And I do think that their offensive firepower that they have and their better depth this year could kind of make up for shaky goaltending that could pop up every now and then for them.
Yeah, and look, I think the biggest thing with Colorado is I expect them to be a good regular season team this year. I don't know about playoffs. I think the goaltending is where they may run into problems in the playoffs. Their depth defensively, they may, but they did make some good moves this offseason. I believe they also brought in Ali Mata. I may be wrong on that. They did bring in another defenseman, but I know that for this Colorado team, it's definitely been a strong start. They've been able to find a way to win games, and that's really been the most important part. Now, the other team, 2 other ones that are still unbeaten, we're going to talk about the defending champs, though, the Vegas Golden Knights, because Vegas is a team that, look, you expect some kind of Stanley Cup hangover, especially when you play that deep into June. Like, you just don't have the time to recover. It's also hard to stay hungry, but this team, they haven't lost yet. And I know the Flyers, they almost knocked them off during that frozen frenzy on Tuesday night. But Look, Vegas, this is a team that's gone out. They've won hockey games. They've kept the defensive structure, and it feels like they just think they're still playing in the playoffs. Like they learned how to play in the playoffs, and they're just going to continue playing that style.
Boston's worst nightmare was losing that head coach. I know Boston's off to a good start too, but they're just so filthy, like from top to bottom. They when I think of Vegas, I think of basically 4 second lines, but each line has like star talent. Like that's how deep they are, and their defense is just shut down. I don't care who they're playing. They could play Colorado, they can shut them down. They could play Edmonton, they'll shut them down. I mean, we've seen it, and I think the Western Conference just has so many teams that play that fast. I mean, Vegas is quick, but plays that fast. They want to score a lot. They don't have the deep defensive cores. Vegas is like the complete opposite, and they just thrive in the West. I would go out on a limb and say if Vegas was on the East, right? If somehow Nevada moved to the East Coast, I don't think they'd be as dominant because I think there's more Eastern Conference teams that could play with them. But especially in the regular season, in the Western Conference, they built that team.
Yeah, look, when you look at Vegas, especially with the East as well, I think they are taking advantage of not only the style that they play, but the ability to go out there and, not have to go up against the talent in the East. Mike, I saw your reaction. I also just saw it as well. That we're watching the only game on Wednesday night here, the Devils Caps, as our Devils are now down 3-0. Goalie change soon, Mike? Think Vitek comes in today?
They just can't beat that team, huh?
I don't know. The Washington's always been a big problem for the Devils, no matter how good they are.
But look, even last year they were able to beat them. It looks like they may be reviewing this the way the coaches are looking at the monitors, but I don't know. Either way, let's back on track here though. Parker, what are your thoughts on Vegas so far?
I mean, like what Tom alluded to earlier, getting Bruce Cassidy has kind of been a cheat code for the Golden Knights. I feel like he's really unlocked all the potential that loaded roster has, and I think it's very interesting that how he got run out of Boston, pretty much, and now he's in a much better situation in a conference and a division that is much easier for the Golden Knights to manage. And I think that's showing up in the standings right now. They don't also like what Tom said, they like the competition in the West isn't at the same level as the East. I mean, you have the Stars and the Avalanche, but really there's not really anyone in the West that really scares me, or at least would scare me if I'm the Golden Knights.
Well, look at it this way. I believe I looked this morning going into Wednesday morning. There were 4 teams in the East under NHL 500, which means their wins, losses taken at the overtime losses. Under NHL 500, only 4 in the East, 7 in the West. So think about that. That's 7 teams in the West, 3 more teams that you're playing against that you're not only getting, you're getting 3 games against those teams rather than the East that's getting 2 and then having to play 3 games. That does make a difference. That could be a 10-point swing in your final standings. So the East definitely, is a bit harder, but Mike, we got to hear your thoughts on Vegas.
Yeah, I just see the quick thing. I mean, Tom and Parker said the best things possible. They got a better coach there, juggernaut as it is, right? And I think the biggest thing for me, for them as a team, is that Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson, the way that they have started in the goaltending realm of things, they are proven that the playoff run in their Stanley Cup was a fluke, right? So they're coming off of this, no hangover, and they're be like, we're going to be the best 1-2 goaltending duo in the league, not even just the West, and they're proving that so far. So. I think that's huge because I think that was probably one of their weaknesses last year, and they still won it all. And now, if this 1-2 punch at goaltender can get even better, I just think that this team they deserve to be number 1 and obviously another favorite for the Stanley Cup once again.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the last unbeaten team, it's the Boston Bruins, and I was telling you guys beforehand, you can see it in Tom's face. He's definitely not happy about it. Parker, as a Tampa fan, I'm sure isn't happy about it. But look, we weren't expecting it. Even though they had the record season last year, even though they kept the goaltending tandem, losing a guy like Patrice Bergeron, I really did think this was going to be a bigger hit for the Boston Bruins. It hasn't been to this point. Now, Parker, you were telling me before that this team is actually your biggest surprise. Now, that's the next thing we're going to go into. So why don't you give us your thoughts on Boston and what exactly about them has been the biggest surprise to you?
Well, over the offseason, they lost their top two centers in Patrice Bergeron and I can't remember his name right now. What's his name? Yeah.
They also lost Taylor Hall as well.
And they lost Taylor Hall to keep a player that ended up signing somewhere else. Too. I also don't remember his name. But I can't even name like the centers that the Bruins have. And it just seems like they haven't skipped a beat. I mean, this Matt Poitras guy,
he stepped in nicely.
it's like I believe he's their top center, and he's 19 years old, and he is just tearing it up. Now, part of that might be because he's on line with Pastrnak, but still, you're not always able to find players who are able to just slot in a role like that and just be able to produce, especially not that age, especially not right away. But so far, he's been really been doing well. And I do think another thing that the Bruins have that's been really helpful for them is Jim Montgomery. I think he's a very, very good coach in the NHL. And he was good with Dallas, even back when he was there. And I do think having his stewardship has helped the team stay a bit stable.
Yeah, I do want to point out, I did actually have to go pull up the list. These are all of the players that Boston did lose. Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, Taylor Hall, Nick Foligno, Connor Clifton, Tomas Nosek, Dmitry Orlov, Tyler Bertuzzi, Garnett Hathaway, Mike Riley. So that's almost half of the team that Boston lost. So it is certainly, a lot of guys that have had to step in and increase their roles. But, Mike, Tom, let's get your thoughts. Tom, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Boston? Because I see you keep shaking your head over there.
They're just annoying. They annoy me. And I'm also gonna just point out the fact their schedule has been very soft to start the year. They've gotten 2 games against Chicago. They've beaten Anaheim. They've beaten San Jose. And the Predators, what are they? I mean, I like the Predators, but I'm gonna just preface what I'm about to say with them. What pisses me off is it seems like Boston always can get a guy like James Van Riemsdyk and like resurrect his career, like guys like that, and Trent Frederick scoring every night. I mean, these guys just like it just pisses me off how they're able to just plug and play all these guys and they end up becoming way better than they ever were anywhere else.
Guys that have no business being as good as they were.
No business being as good. I mean, the reason why I was so down on Boston, no disrespect to Devils, Pavel Zacha was slotted as their second line center, and I'm like, okay, this team can't be serious. They can't be. And they go on, they start the year 6-0 and look like a juggernaut again. So I don't have much hockey sense to talk about it because it makes no sense to me. I'm just saying I don't like them, and I think that this is a fluke. That's what
Lucic is back, by the way.
Oh yeah, like Milan Lucic, like somehow he's going to become this like Milan Lucic when they came back against the Maple Leafs, back in 2010. Like, oh God, I can't. Boston sports is up there with me with Philadelphia for Mike. Like the Red Sox always somehow end up being good. The Patriots never lose. The Celtics are always good. It just pisses me off. So
that's the Jets fan in you that hates Boston sports. The Patriots dynasty was so good that it made Jets fans just hate all of Boston sports.
It is so true. That's why I'm a little numb to Jack Hughes becoming the superstar right in front of the Rangers' face because like I dealt with Tom Brady. Like you can't you just can't.
All right, well, Mike, let's hear it on Boston.
I just want to piggyback on what Tom said because I truly do hate Philly. Shout out to those Diamondbacks, baby. I love every second of it. But we're not talking baseball. We're talking hockey, right? But when it comes to Boston, I understand Tom's pain. I don't have a hatred for Boston as much as I should and as much as Tom, obviously. But it is amazing what they can do all the time, every year. They lost all these players. We had them at the bottom of the division when we had our preview pod, and they are just coming out as a juggernaut with these players that they shouldn't be as good as they are. I mean, it says a lot about Jim Montgomery and how he coaches, and it's just about a lot about these veterans. Parker, as bad as I am as remembering names, I'm bad at pronouncing names. So like that Matt Poitras guy, is that how you say it? Did I say it incorrectly? But the fact that he's a former second round pick correctly, and he came in and he's like the future for them, and he's already excelling this year because he kind of has to from all the talent that they lost, and he's showing out early. I know it's early, but he is showing out as well. So it's amazing to see, and I shouldn't be shocked about it. Kind of am, but it is Boston, so I really shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's get into the rest of our surprises, though. Mike, let's just keep rolling. Who is your surprise team? Because I know you did hint that you were going to bring them back up again.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm picking Colorado as my surprise team. Like I said before, they were a team that obviously I knew that they were going to contend. They were going to be a playoff team. I just didn't think they were going to come out the gates as hot as they are, and that they're going to the rest of the season. I mean, Ben, you kind of hit on the head before about all the talent they have. It is led by Cale Makar. It is this team is definitely a Stanley Cup threat. They're a threat to their division or a threat to their conference, and they could definitely knock out a lot of good teams on their end. I just think that with the talent they have, it seems like they got better, even better than the Stanley Cup year. Because last year, you could say what you want. Yeah, they lost to the Kraken. It is what it is. I think they have a chip on their shoulder this year. You can clearly see it as their opening stretch so far this year. So they're definitely a surprise to me of how hot out of the gates they have come. And I don't expect them to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, Tom. Now let's hear your surprise.
The Detroit Red Wings out of Little Caesars Arena. I don't know. After the first weekend, I had them. Remember my original text? I had them in my top 10 for the power rankings, but I couldn't commit. But Alex DeBrincat has gone home and has turned into the superstar we all knew him to be. Dylan Larkin finally is a guy that can put the puck in the back of the net with all of his playmaking. And guys like David Perron and Andrew Kopp, like they're just playing solid. They're getting decent goaltending. They're beating some good teams. And they just been a fun team for me to watch, fun team for me to bet on. And I think everything that everything that Detroit could have imagined going into this year, like we need this to go right, has started the year going right. DeBrincat breaking out, Larkin being Larkin, right? He kind of had a down year last year, point wise and production wise. Perron not letting his age catch up to him. Andrew Kopp being a solid, two-way forward, two-way center. It's just been a really good start for them. And another one of those teams where a hot start can propel them when they go through that little lull where they might lose 3-4 in a row in a tough stretch and get a couple points. They can survive because of a hot start. So it's impressive to me what Detroit's done.
Yeah, for sure. Detroit's been really good. And look, Mike and I saw them on opening night against the Devils. The Devils really had to grind in order to do that. Now, the team I want to talk about is my surprise. It's the Philadelphia Flyers. And they may have not had good expectations. They may have settled things down a little bit, but they look good. They still have been playing well. They, like we said earlier, they almost knocked off Vegas. Travis Konechny with his 5 goals has been rolling. You also have 4 goals out of Cam Atkinson, and that's a player that we talked about in the preview as someone that needed to produce and needed to get going after not playing the previous year for the Flyers. He really needed to do something this year. He's someone that they needed to step up, and he's someone that has played for Torts before. So he's also someone that is good for the young guys. He's got 4 goals. He's been solid. And 5 assists for Travis Sanheim. So, another guy who is playing about 25, 26 minutes on ice each game. It's not sustainable, but it's been a strong start for the Flyers, and for Flyers fans, they're going to be more competitive, and that is the big thing for the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, that is going to do it for us here on the Outsider Sports Hockey Podcast. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. Make sure you give us a follow on X at Outsider Sports 3. Check out our website at outsidersports.net. You can see our power rankings. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you give us a follow. Over on YouTube, just click the subscribe button. We have other sports as well, football and baseball, both in full swing. You can check them out here on Spotify or YouTube, as well as our website. And we'll see you next week with more hockey news.